While we are waiting for further news about Code Veronica remake and Resident Evil 9 DLC, Comic-Con 2026 in San Diego took place where many different studios and actors were present, and even there Resident Evil was mentioned. However, nothing from the games was announced, but Zack Cregger's movie, which is simply called Resident Evil, received attention at this event. We were shown the second trailer, and in addition to that, the director of the movie together with the main actor gave several interviews where Zack Cregger clearly explained the features of this film, when it takes place, where it takes place, what the movie itself is about, and what the director wanted to convey to us, the viewers, through this film. Therefore, today we will take a look at the latest two trailers and discuss the movie and what makes it special compared to other adaptations of the Resident Evil franchise. My name is Cyrus Nova, and welcome to my new video about Resident Evil movie. The first two trailers of this movie gave us the first overall picture of how the film begins and how the events develop further. So I suggest we analyze the trailers chronologically, because this way it will help us understand at least the approximate direction in which the story develops. Let's start with the second trailer. It introduces us to a man named Brian who works in a medical transportation department. He comes to a hospital to deliver a medical package containing some kind of vital organ. He meets a doctor or a nurse who offers him to deliver another package to Raccoon City General, tempting him by saying that this needs to be transported outside the hospital's delivery zone, and such a trip will be paid twice as much. He immediately agrees and gets into the car.
You got time for another run?
No, I'm wrapped up for the...
It's outside the zone, so it pays double.
I could do that.
The next shots introduce us to the snowy atmosphere of the movie. This decision was Zack Cregger's personal idea in order to give the film both more variety and a terrifying atmosphere that will perfectly match the snow in the movie. Brian talks with his girlfriend Michelle while driving and mentions that the signal in this area is very bad. Michelle says that she will stay at some person named Katie's house, to which Brian tells her that she should not stay at that crazy Katie's place at all.
I'm gonna stay with Katie for a bit, I think.
Michelle, please do not go stay with freaking Katie.
It also hurts my feelings that you don't even care enough to come home and have this conversation.
Seriously, I'm working.
At the same time, his car starts sliding in the snow, and in the end he hits a woman at high speed without noticing her. Of course, this scene reminds me of the events from the opening cutscene of Resident Evil 2 Remake, when the driver of a large truck also hits a woman. Although there is obviously a difference between these scenes. In the movie there is snow, while in the game there is rain. In the movie Brian communicates with his girlfriend, while in the game the truck driver listens to the radio. In the movie, Brian is not harmed by her and eventually finds the woman in the bushes, while the truck driver eventually gets bitten by the zombie woman. I think this scene will 100% give us flashbacks to Resident Evil 2 Remake when we watch it in theaters. Next, we connect some footage from the first trailer. After the collision with the woman, Brian approaches a lonely house walking through snowy fields or meadows. He approaches the house and asks if everyone is inside, adding that he had some kind of situation on the road and needs to use the phone. But there is obviously no signal there, and he leaves what seems to be his final message throughout the entire movie to Michelle, saying that some things happened to him and that he cannot reach the police. At this moment, strange sounds begin happening around the house, and after securing himself, he finds a shotgun and continues exploring the house in search of ammunition. During his search, he comes across a typewriter, which is of course one of the main symbols of the Resident Evil franchise. What is most interesting is that this typewriter does not really match modern times shown on screen, because according to the director, the events of this movie take place in modern times and not in 1998. Nevertheless, I think this typewriter could simply have been there as a rare collectible or kept as someone's former working item, for example. Maybe it will even play some kind of role in the movie, or maybe it will simply be an Easter egg to the Resident Evil franchise itself. We will most likely find out in the movie, so there is no need to focus too much attention on this detail. After finding the ammunition, he sees that the same woman he hit is chasing him, and to be completely honest, here we can clearly see Zack Cregger's style in this scene. If we simply compare a normal shot from the movie Weapons and place it next to a future shot from the Resident Evil movie, we can clearly see that Zack Cregger simply loves filming scenes with such an extended camera perspective. So if someone still thought that this movie is an adaptation of the events of Resident Evil 2, then unfortunately no, it's not. It is not a coincidence that in the very first shots of the trailer it says "from the mind of Zack Cregger," which tells us that this movie comes from the director's personal idea and vision. In panic, Brian tries to load the shotgun while the zombie woman gets closer and closer to the house. At this moment, the landline phone inside the house suddenly rings, even though there was no signal before. Next, judging by the footage from the first trailer, we see how Brian, together with the package and shotgun, runs in an unknown direction and comes across some kind of barn while simultaneously looking behind him. Apparently, the zombie woman is still chasing him. And after that, the footage from both the first and second trailers becomes scattered, and we will not be able to understand where Brian goes afterward. And what is most interesting is that at some point, at some footage, he's picked up by a certain man named Carl. At least that's what's indicated by YouTube subtitles in the trailers. And immediately in the next shot we see Brian opening some kind of case or laptop. I still didn't fully understand what it is, but anyway. Honestly, Carl as a character reminds me very strongly of the chief of police of the RPD, who is also named Brian Irons. Maybe this will be some kind of Easter egg to that sheriff, but Carl at least tells Brian in the movie that everything that happened in Raccoon City happened within only a few hours. Nevertheless, we can definitely see some locations that Brian will visit later. The streets of Raccoon City, where he will encounter many monsters. The sewers, where we can see something similar to Chunk from Resident Evil 9 simply sitting in the middle of the tunnel. A partially destroyed skyscraper where a horde of zombies is chasing him. And finally the hospital itself, which is completely covered in blood and corpses and where he encounters another new monster. In general, the monsters in this movie are quite interesting and diverse, and they are clearly different from the types of monsters or bioweapons that we have seen in the games. From ordinary zombies to some kind of huge brutes, worms, and half-mutated humans whose bodies have been replaced by a mass of legs. According to Zack Cregger, this wide range of monsters is explained by the fact that this specific mechanism of how the T-virus affects humans and creatures is unique to the movie, but at the same time it does not violate the rules regarding the T-virus in the games. For example, in Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, or other games where the T-virus and its consequences on humans are mentioned. The director intentionally wanted to present new ideas and variations in the movie of what monsters that were directly or indirectly affected by the T-virus could look like, and in my opinion this creature design brings truly small drops of novelty and freshness to the movie, and in this way attracts the viewer, especially Resident Evil fans or simply survival horror fans, to continue watching the film and become familiar with new adaptations of monsters based on the director's imagination. And what do you think about this variety of monsters that we have seen in the movie trailers? Write your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Now I suggest we move on to the interviews themselves in order to learn more details about the movie itself. In the interview with IGN, Zack Cregger, while answering a general question about the story of this movie, confirmed that he gave himself complete creative freedom during the creation of the film, and therefore decided to tell his own complete story. The events of the movie did not take place in 1998 but in modern times, and the snowy atmosphere was also chosen as the foundation so that viewers could become more deeply immersed in the story and visual elements of the film. He also doesn't use any familiar characters from the games and doesn't tell similar stories in this movie because, according to the director, the games already represent their own ideal and he would not be able to tell the stories of the familiar characters better than the games themselves already did.
I am not trying to adapt a video game. I'm not using the characters from the games. I'm not telling a story that the games tell because I'm not going to be able to do it better than the games. The games are so well executed, and to me, like Leon and Claire and these characters, they exist so perfectly in the games that anyone I cast and any difference that I do with them would be probably to the detriment of what I was trying to do.
Personally, I believe this is absolutely the right decision because otherwise some Resident Evil fans simply might not like the same story or the cast of characters, and he mentioned this in the interview. The best approach is to take separate characters, a separate story, a separate setting, and locations different from Resident Evil 2 that would still deliver exactly the same atmosphere and emotions as, for example, the first time playing Resident Evil 2. And he also mentions this fact during the interview and even reveals what exactly this means.
It's kind of like when you have your favorite book and then you find out someone's turning your favorite book into a movie, and then you hear who they cast, and you're always like, no, you know,
that wasn't in my head.
Yeah, no, that's not what I want. I'm not trying to do that, you know? What I'm trying to do is make a Resident Evil movie that really is a love letter to the experience of playing a Resident Evil game. And to me, that means a couple of different things. I'm going to go. I'm not even going to let you talk. I'm gonna
Please do.
Shut the fuck up. To me, what that means is that it plays by the rules of Resident Evil, right? It's in Raccoon City, the
Austin,
Umbrella
should we just
Corporation.
leave?
Hey, I got this from here. Everybody, look at me. Camera here, right here. Okay, what it does is it plays by the rules, and that it's the T-Virus, the Umbrella Corporation, Raccoon City. All those things are necessary. They're in there. But the most important thing I'm trying to do is make a movie that feels like it's unraveling the way that when you play the game, it's unfolding.
These are basically the two main ideas from this interview that reveal the meaning of what we should expect from this movie. The focus is placed on our emotions, impressions, and atmosphere rather than the cast of actors, adaptation of the game's story, and so on. And this is truly a great decision from Zack, because when we watch horror movies and find ourselves in a tense moment, we first experience fear, anxiety, and concern, and these become our main emotions while watching a horror movie. And this is exactly where the director decided to focus his attention. Even if the main actor himself, Austin Abrams, was mentioned as the star of this movie who almost died during the filming of separate scenes, this clearly tells us that our emotions will be pushed to the maximum.
It took a lot of rehearsal, and he is narrowly dodging these really heavy exploding bags of liquid. And yeah, there was one take where I guess they triggered one of them too early. And it was like, if he had been an inch to his right, it would have hit him directly. I mean, not an inch, but probably like 6 inches. And it would have killed him. It would have, there's no doubt about it, would have killed him. And I'm like watching on the monitor, and here's like my star, running, and then this bag triggers too early, and it hit like right next to him. And I remember at the monitor being like, "Oh no, yes!" Because it looked so good. It was like instant. He's okay. That was awesome. And it's in the movie. Like we used that take, and it is crazy how close he came to death.
So what do you think about this decision? Write your thoughts in the comments below. But what about the uniqueness of this story? Here, it lies in the fact that the story is quite straightforward. According to Zack Cregger, the movie offers us the experience of following one character throughout the entire story from point A to point B without getting distracted by anything else. And the biggest challenge during the production of the movie was not necessarily the filming itself, but rather answering the question of whether it was possible to reach that final point B, with a constant main character, a constant setting, and a continuous plot, while maintaining the tension from the moment Brian hits the zombie woman until the end of this movie. And judging by the trailers and what awaits us, it seems that this goal was achieved.
With this, I just wanted to make a movie that was going to be like stepping on the gas 5 minutes in, staying locked with one person, and the challenge being, can I floor it all the way to the end of it?
Yes.
And so there's no narrative tricks here. We're just with him from, the departure to the destination.
Awesome.
Moreover, in order to completely immerse viewers into this movie, Zack Cregger used a technique that game designers apply when creating third-person camera animations. During San Diego Comic-Con itself, he explained that video games positively influence the cinematography of movies. In the case of the Resident Evil movie, Zack used a third-person perspective in some scenes in order to completely immerse the viewer into the same atmosphere that we experienced when playing Resident Evil 2 Remake or Resident Evil 4 Remake, etc. This filming technique, together with the uniqueness of the story, will help the viewer fully immerse themselves into this movie, just like during the experience of playing Resident Evil games.
We have a different touchstone for visual communication because of video games, so to make a Resident Evil movie is like, obviously I want to be in that third person view a lot. When Austin looks right, our camera operator swings to look right. When Austin looks up, we drop down and we look up. So it had a lot of like working together with the operator, with Austin, to make sure that we were doing everything in real time, so it felt like the camera was being psychically controlled by Austin. And what it does, when I play a video game, I'm sure you guys agree, it's like you feel so locked into the space when you can like explore it that way. I feel like a lot of horror movies, it's like someone's moving down a dark hallway and you just kind of like, you have a shot of their face as they're walking, and maybe you get a POV shot, and it's like, that's great, but it doesn't make me feel like I'm really there. But if I'm agile with the camera and I have a wide lens and I'm like perched right on somebody's shoulder and I'm following their attention, I feel locked in. And the games just do that, so why wouldn't I just take it from the games and just put it in the movie?
Summarizing everything, we can say that Zack Cregger's Resident Evil movie will definitely bring a new breath of fresh air to the adaptation of the Resident Evil franchise. It clearly will not feel like the previous movies, but instead will represent a completely new side of what we have not seen yet among other Resident Evil adaptations. From the visual design of the monsters to the uniqueness of the story, from Zack Cregger's creative freedom in the movie to the unique mechanics and references that connect us with Resident Evil games, all of this will appear on our cinema screens already on September 18th. Personally, I'm currently very satisfied with the picture that is forming at this point, and I hope that in August and at the beginning of September we will be able to receive even more news about this movie. And how do you evaluate the Resident Evil movie at this point? Leave your opinions and thoughts in the comments below, but for now, that's it. And of course, I wish our two channel members, Jonah Epp and Obersounders5655, a big hello and a big thank you for supporting this channel financially. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new videos about the Resident Evil franchise. My name is Cyrus Nova and thank you for watching my new video about the Resident Evil movie, coming out September 18th, exclusively in movie theaters.
Yeah, where was it going again?
Raccoon City General.
Hey, no sweat.